My wealthy boss stole credit for my work, smirking, "You should be grateful I even keep you around." Furious, I resigned on the spot. Months later, he walked into a meeting and found me sitting at the head of the table. His jaw dropped as I smiled. "Welcome. I run this company now." This happened a couple of years ago, and even now I still think about the look on his face that day. But I'll get to that. First, here's what went down. I used to work for a software company in Austin, Texas. We weren't Google or anything, but we had decent clients and were growing fast. I was a senior developer there for about 3 years. Not the loudest guy in the room, not the most outgoing, but I worked hard, stayed late, and actually cared about the stuff I made. The company liked to act like it supported new ideas, but in reality, upper management just waited to see what stuck, then tried to slap their name on it. I figured that out too late. Anyway, about a year into my job there, I started working on something during my evenings and weekends. It was a data analytics platform I called InsightMax. Nothing crazy, just a smoother, faster way to pull reports from big data sets. I made a demo and ran some test cases. The results were good. Really good. I showed it to my team lead first. He was into it. Said it had potential. Then I pitched it to my department head. She liked it too, but told me I had to go through the right channels. So, I set up a meeting with the CEO, Martin Quinn. Now, Martin was one of those guys who thought he was smarter than everyone else in the room. Always dressed like he was headed to some country club, hair slicked back, fake laugh on command. He made you feel small without ever raising his voice. I showed him the demo, walked him through the features. He barely said a word during the meeting, just nodded and kept that weird half-smile on his face. At the end, he said, "Yeah, this could be useful. Good initiative." I left that meeting thinking maybe, just maybe, this was my shot. A couple of weeks went by. No updates. No feedback. I figured maybe it was on the back burner. I went back to my regular workload and tried not to think about it. Then the company's yearly tech summit came around. Big event. Fancy venue. Everyone from the company was there. Some clients too. Martin gets on stage to give the main presentation. He's got slides behind him, and then, boom, he pulls up the InsightMax interface. My code, my UI, my exact pitch, word for word. And he's saying, "This is InsightMax, our newest product. We've been working hard to bring it to life." We, as in him. I sat there staring at the screen. Couldn't move. Couldn't speak. My coworkers didn't even realize it was mine. He didn't mention me. Not once. After the presentation, I followed him out back where the speakers were taking a break. I confronted him. "That was my project," I said. "I built that." He looked at me, smiled, and said, "You should be grateful I even keep you around. This company runs on collaboration. That's how it works." He patted my shoulder and walked off, like I was some intern who didn't get how things worked in the real world. I didn't even respond. I just went back to my desk, packed up my stuff, and walked straight to HR, handed in my resignation. No 2 weeks. No goodbyes. I was done being used. Walking out of that building felt like a breakup. A nasty one. I didn't have another job lined up, no backup plan. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to be someone else's stepping stone ever again. I spent the next month lying low. I didn't tell anyone from work where I went. I didn't post about it on LinkedIn. I just cut ties. I was angry, but I didn't want to act out of rage. I wanted something better. Smarter. So I started building again. See, InsightMax was just a piece of something bigger I had in mind. That tool was good, yeah. But I knew it could be better. With more features, more real-time data tracking, tighter security, and a better customer interface. I still had all the code. I built it from scratch on my own time, and they never had me sign anything that gave them ownership. Martin didn't realize that. He just assumed it belonged to the company. He didn't know I was already improving it. I called my new version core site. I filed the LLC myself. Hired a freelance lawyer to help me with the IP. I used my savings and took some contract work to stay afloat. But all my real hours went into the build. A couple of months later, I pitched it to a small firm in Dallas that had recently cut ties with Martin's company. They loved it. Not only that, but they introduced me to someone higher up at a major investment firm that backed tech startups. They flew me out. I demoed the product. That night, they offered seed funding. $1.3 million. I remember sitting in the hotel room after the call, staring at the wall. Not smiling. Not jumping up and down. Just quiet. Like my brain couldn't catch up to what just happened. I wasn't just building a product now, I was building a company. Fast forward 6 more months. I had a small office, a growing team, and a client list that included several former partners of Martin's firm. Every time I signed one, I felt a little more alive. Then the call came. It was a friend from my old job, someone I trusted, someone who had also quit. He told me that Martin's version of Insight Max was tanking. Clients were complaining about bugs, broken features, and no updates. The dev team couldn't keep up, and Martin didn't know the tech well enough to fix anything. They were looking for outside help. And then came the twist I didn't expect. One of the company's biggest clients had recommended CoreSight to replace Insight Max. And guess who set up the meeting? Me. I didn't tell the client about my history with Martin. I didn't need to. All they knew was that my company had what they needed, and I'd be presenting in person at their next strategy session. And that's how, 9 months after I walked out of that building with nothing but a box and my pride, I ended up sitting at the head of a glass conference table in downtown Austin, wearing a suit I bought with my own money, watching Martin Quinn walk in with his senior staff. He froze the moment he saw me. I smiled. Calm. Measured. "Welcome," I said. "I run this company now." His jaw literally dropped. No exaggeration. He looked around like he was trying to wake up from a dream. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I just walked them through the features of CoreSight and outlined how we could help them clean up the mess they made with Insight Max. Then I handed them a contract. Martin didn't say a word during most of the meeting. He sat stiff in his chair, arms crossed, his fake smile long gone. His VP tried to act like it was business as usual, nodding and asking questions like they weren't swallowing their pride. But I could see it in Martin's eyes. He knew he was cornered. The proposal I gave them wasn't cheap. I priced it high on purpose. Not because I wanted to bleed them, but because I knew they needed me more than I needed them. They'd burned through so much goodwill trying to pass off my half-finished work as a full product, and now the clients were furious. They had no one else. Martin finally spoke when we wrapped up. "So, you built this company?" he asked, his voice low. I met his eyes. "Yeah, from scratch. Just like Insight Max, remember?" His VP shifted uncomfortably. A few of the junior execs glanced at each other, confused. Martin cleared his throat. "You know this deal will mean full access to our systems. We'll be relying on you." I didn't break eye contact. "I know. That's why I trust my team more than I ever trusted yours." That stung. I could tell. After the meeting, they asked for a few days to look over the contract. Standard stuff. But that's when things got strange. 2 days later, I got an email from someone in Martin's company. An anonymous account. No name, just a burner Gmail. The subject line said, "You should know what Martin's planning." Inside was a PDF with email screenshots and internal memos. Martin had no intention of going through with our deal. He planned to sign, get access to CoreSight, and reverse engineer what they could before pulling out and blaming us for performance issues. He called it a strategic pivot. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. I had 2 options. Walk away or use it. I chose option 3. The next day, I called Martin directly. No assistance. No email. "Martin," I said, "let's move this forward. I'll have my team prepare access credentials." He sounded smug again. "Looking forward to working together. You'll get the welcome package tomorrow." What he didn't know was that the access credentials weren't real. They looked real. They acted real. But every client profile, every report in the system, they were dummies. Decoys. Meant to detect data scraping and unauthorized duplication. We let them in. And we watched. We monitored everything. Within 48 hours of giving Martin's company access, our back-end alerts started going off. Their team was running silent scripts, trying to clone report templates and export back-end code. They weren't even subtle about it. It was like watching someone break into a fake bank vault, confident, sloppy, and completely unaware it was all a setup. We logged every action, every keystroke, every unauthorized ping. Then we got the final nail. They tried to swap our logo with theirs in one of the cloned dashboard files. That told me everything I needed to know. They were planning to pitch this ripoff to their investors as their own platform again, like he did the first time. My lawyer sent a cease and desist immediately, along with a list of digital fingerprints showing everything they accessed. We copied in their board of directors and key shareholders. It wasn't just a warning, it was a shot across the bow. The fallout was instant. Within a day, I got a call from one of their board members. Not a junior person, someone high up. He asked for a private conversation. We met at a neutral spot, a hotel conference room downtown. No lawyers, just us. He didn't waste time. We've reviewed the evidence, he said. This is serious. If you go public or press charges, it'll crush the company. I stayed quiet. We'd like to avoid litigation, but we're prepared to take action against Martin internally. Quietly. You'll never deal with him again. I leaned back in my chair. Not good enough. He blinked. What do you want? I want the company. He laughed at first, then saw I wasn't joking. You mean, buy us out? No. I mean I take over the tech division. Full operational control. You keep your brand name if you want, your sales teams, but the platform becomes CoreSite. You pay licensing fees. I run the show. He sat in silence for a long time. I'll talk to the board. 3 days later, it was done. Martin Quinn was gone. No press release. No LinkedIn announcement. Just quietly erased from the website. His office cleared out. I heard he took a personal leave that turned into permanent retirement. And me? I walked back into that building not as a guest, not as a contractor, but as the new head of the very department Martin once ruled over. The same people who used to nod politely now stood up when I walked into meetings. But I wasn't there for revenge alone. I had one more plan. I didn't take over just to be the new king. I took over to clean house. First, I pulled every contract tied to InsightMax. Half of them were lies, promises the old team made to keep clients happy while feeding them a broken product. I reviewed each one, and for the clients who got screwed the worst, I offered free migrations to CoreSite with full support. That cost us a chunk of revenue, but it earned us loyalty. Real loyalty. And word spread fast. Second, I reviewed the team. Some of the old staff had known about Martin's plan and did nothing. They were the just doing my job types. I let most of them go. Not out of spite, but because I needed people who believed in what we were doing, not people who go along with theft just to protect their paycheck. I kept a few, though, people who had been trapped under Martin's thumb like I had. One of them was a junior dev named Armin. Quiet guy, brilliant coder, always looked tired. Turns out, Martin had stolen code from him too, years before me. I promoted him, but I wasn't done. A few months in, once the dust settled, I got a tip from someone inside the investor firm. Martin wasn't finished. He was still trying to pitch his own startup idea using pieces of InsightMax that he had backed up before he was fired. He was shopping it to small-time investors under a different name. That crossed the line. My lawyer and I filed a formal complaint. Since Martin had already signed over all development rights when his company folded into mine, he was in violation. This time, I didn't settle quietly. We went to court. Martin showed up wearing that same smug face. But this time, he was alone. No board. No lawyers paid by the company. Just him and the weight of what he'd done. In court, we showed everything. The stolen code, the clone attempts, even the private emails where he laughed about using my ideas better than the loser who made them. His own words on screen. The judge didn't hold back. Martin was fined heavily for breach of contract and IP theft. But worse, he was barred from working in the tech industry for the next 5 years. No investment roles. No development. Nothing. His career was over. And me? I should have felt good. Vindicated. But the truth is, I didn't walk away clean either. In the process of growing the company, I'd burned myself out. Lost friends. Missed time with family. I'd become obsessed with proving I was more than what Martin saw. I had spent so much energy getting back at him, I forgot what I actually wanted. So I made one last move. I sold my stake. I found someone I trusted to take over, someone who cared about the product more than power. I walked away with enough money to never work again. But more than that, I walked away free. The day I left the office, I didn't look back. Martin had taken my work once, and it nearly broke me. But I didn't just take it back. I built something better. And in the end, he had to watch it thrive without him, knowing he was erased from the story he tried to steal. That was the real revenge. The kind that didn't need a single word. Just results.